you 1 Samuel, the 17th chapter, beginning at verse 17. 1 Samuel, the chapter 16, beginning at verse 17. 1 Samuel, 16th chapter, beginning at verse 17. And it reads, And Saul said unto his servant, Provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. Then answered one of the servants, and said, Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse of Bedford, that is common in playing, and mighty valiant man, and a man of war, and perfect and mighty, and a common person, and the Lord is with him. Wherefore Saul sent a message unto Jesse, and said, Send David thy son, which is with the sheep. And Jesse took an ass, lamb with bread, and a bottle of wine, and a kid, and sent them by David his son unto Saul. And David came to Saul, and stood before him, and he loved him greatly, and he became his armor bearer. And Saul sent to Jesse, said, Let David, I pray, this is the key word, let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he has found favor in my sight. And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took an harp and played with his hands. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. Amen. I just want to talk about a little while setting the mood. Setting the mood. When y'all was young and y'all was dating, and y'all found, you ladies found a man that you had your eyes on, a young man. And in those days, when I was coming up, you could tell, excuse me y'all, you could tell the men from the women. But nowadays it's hard. But yet, God knows. If that person loved that person, they love them. But here, when we was young, we start thinking about what we going to tell our girlfriends. We're going to start picking out what we're going to wear. We shine our shoes. You didn't have but one pair of shoes anyway. And we would, on Fridays or Saturdays, you put on some black pants and a white shirt. And then you put on your cologne after you taken your bath and all, and fix your hair. And then back then, the hair was cut real short. And they would put this type of grease on your hair. Then they would put a stocking cap on after you brush it. Waves would come in your hair. Then you pull that stocking cap off that next morning, and then that evening when you got ready to go out, and you looking good, and you start stepping. Then some of you that was built, men that was built nicely, they unbutton the shirt collar all the way down to the third button be open, so the ladies could see. So we're setting the mood. Back then, when I was coming up, we had the 8-track tapes in our vehicles. And when we picked up our girlfriend, oh, she looked good. She had that smelling perfume on. Her hair was fixed. And back then, when I was coming up, those mini skirts was in. It was setting the mood. After that, to get it real set, you could spin that 8-track tape forward or backwards. There was a certain song that you felt like your girlfriend or boyfriend would like. So you start playing the songs. B.B. King wrote a song says, "The thrill is gone." But during your young days, the thrill was still there. As you get older, the thrill leaves you. Then he wrote another song said, "Love and happiness." And when they sung that song, it started doing something to the people that was listening to the songs, the lyrics. Then there was another song wrote that it says, "You make me feel like a natural woman." So the feeling was still there. And there was another song they would write that was sung, "I'll take you there." It didn't say where it would carry you, but it said, "I'll take you there." So we're setting the tone. I've been lonely for so long. So when we think about all of these songs, we will set the mood for the ones that we had so we could enjoy each other. Sometimes even to set the mood more, those that was able, they would have a candlelight supper. Cut the lights down low and light the candles and have soft music playing. Are y'all with me? Setting the mood. Then the ladies, they would have on something, should I just use the terminology, sexy and low cut, tight, heels, hair fixed, lipstick, face fixed up, men smelling good, looking good, dressed good, all on the outside. But what about the inside? The Bible tells us man look at their outward appearance, but God is looking at the heart. And then I think B.B. King or Al Green wrote, "I believe I'm falling in love with you, baby." Saul, as I told you to look at verse 22, Saul fell in love with David. Saul had turned against God. And when he turned away from God, God was punishing him. And Saul began to be, he was a king, and he began to do wrong. Even in verse 4, verse 1, God had to talk to Samuel. Look at verse 1. He said, "And the Lord said unto Samuel, How long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel?" So, therefore, when you do wrong, God will reject you, but you have to have an opportunity. He gives us an opportunity to pray and ask for forgiveness. Saul, being a king, he thought he had more authority than anyone else. So Saul was turning away from God. And when you turn away from God, trouble start happening. Am I right? Things start coming in your pathway that you had never seen before, and you hear danger things happening around you. But be careful, if you have not repented and if you have not prayed to God, your day is coming. I was telling them in Sunday school, if you look at the storm, the windstorm that they had, Groesbeck has been blessed. No tornadoes have torn any houses down. No one have lost their lives, but just across the river, trees and things have been blown down on top of houses. And God is warning us, if he don't get you one way, he gonna show you when he remove his hand, he'll get you another. And what I mean by get you, he's getting your attention. So we think this virus is something. You just keep on waiting and turn away from God and see what will happen to this nation. Even in our Sunday school lesson this morning, it talked about how the leaders was leading the peoples away from God, having them to worship our God. Well, they was punished too. And teachers, preachers, and all of us, if we're not leading the people in the right way, we will be punished. Oh, everything sounds good and look good and all that, but the Bible tells us beware of wolves in sheep clothing. So Saul here, he was upset with what was going on, and so God has sent an evil spirit up on him. So now his heart was saddened and he needed some comfort. And you know, sometimes when you mistreat somebody, and you're in the house by yourself, or you start thinking, and you say, I shouldn't have said that to him. I shouldn't have done that to her. It's because the evil spirit had gotten in us to make us say these things. Don't be like Flip Wilson, the devil made me do it. Or say that the devil made me say that. It's sometimes because you just want to say it. We have an action I want to get back with to somebody. Instead of looking beyond their faults and say, God, forgive him, forgive her, we'll hold a grudge. So Saul, the king, and Daddy used to tell me a lot of time, they said people will fly high, little bird. When you see the birds flying, he said, fly high, little bird. You got to come down to get a drink of water. You got to come down to eat. You got to come down to rest. So when you mistreat people and you think you up yonder, you got to come down. And that very person you mistreat may have to bring you some water. You may have a flat on the side of the road. That same person drive by and see you. They may have to help you. Oh, I call a AAA. They'll come. How long you have to sit there when the person driving right by could change the tire in no time? All right. We have to be careful how we treat people. So Saul was mistreating the people. So now his heart is sad. And he's sad. He don't know what to do, where to go. So then here comes Samuel. God told Samuel, said, look, I want you to go to Jesse. And I want you to talk to him. And there is one that will be king. And he will anoint you. I want you to anoint him. And I want you to fill the horn with oil. And when you fill the horn with oil, you go to Jesse and you call for all. And Jesse had 7 sons. And when he had the 7 sons, he called them all in. And so the Spirit was telling Samuel, these are not the one. He started naming them one by one. He said, this is not the one to be king. He said, well, I have another son. And you know the scripture said, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. He said, I have another son. There's a little lad. He's out there watching over them dirty sheep. I put that in there. Watching over them dirty sheep and all. And so they said, go call him. David is rugged, but he was a good-looking man to look upon. That's what the Bible says. So it said he was a dark-skinned man. That's me. So he was a dark-skinned man, the Bible said. And they said, call him in. And when they called him in, the Spirit led Samuel, saying, he is the one. And can you imagine the brothers begin to get jealous of their baby brother. He is going to be the king over us. Can you hear him talking? And yet he's just the one that was watching over some little sheep. Well, some people don't know how God deals with all of us, each individual. So now, David, what can you do? He said, let me tell you something. The Lord is with me. And that's what one of the verses says. The Lord is with David. And then when God is with all of us, it's no hurt, harm, or danger can come upon us. Why? Because he has his shield of protection around us. Well, it went on, and so they anointed David for the king. And David came up, and then they looked at him and said, now this is what Jesse said. Now, Daddy, what shall I do? What shall I carry? He said, I want you to get a kid, which is a goat. He said, I want you to get some bread. I want you to get some wine. I want you to carry it to him. And I want you to carry a heifer with you. Carry it to him to sacrifice and all. And so when he done all of this, he began to go to him, and Saul found favor in David. I've heard about you. Now, if you stop and think that when you are a child of God and you're doing the right thing for God, people are listening, they are watching you, they are hearing you, and yet they too afraid to accept, I'm going to accept Jesus Christ, but I'm still watching him or her. So when they make a mistake, I told y'all, he ain't no good. What kind of Christian is he? See what he doing? But what are you doing? Besides criticizing. You're going to die and go to heaven if you live right, or you're going to die and go to hell. So Saul was doing evil, and so God sent an evil spirit upon Saul. So when that time comes, they said, get David. David, can he play? Yes, I've heard he's playing. He's a man of war. How do you know? Because God has his hand on David. Well, don't you know, David, when God put when he put his hands on all of us, no hurt, harm, or danger can come upon us. He put shields of protection around us. Yeah. And he'll keep us from all hurt, harm, or danger. Well, preacher, you saying that, but I know some Christian peoples have got killed. It was their time. Man. That was a friend of mine named Leroy Journer. We went to school together in March, and he was saying, God won't let you go until it's time for you to go. He said, I don't care if you take a shotgun and blow part of your stomach out. If it's not your time to go, you won't go. So I listened to him. Some years after that, we was playing in the gym at Mort High School. And there was a guy who took a baseball bat and hit Leroy Journer side the head and knocked him out, and he fell to the floor. Blood was gushing out every time he opened his mouth. Didn't know what he was saying. They didn't think he was going to make it. Carried him to the hospital, and he stayed for months in the hospital, but that family had to take care of the bills. Then he went on, he got out, and I talked to him. He said, I told you, if God is ready for you, you'll go. If God is not ready for you, you're not going. Amen. He was a mechanic. He went a little further on, and he was working on cars, and he didn't have a jack stand underneath the car like he should have. The jack fell, and the car fell on him, on his chest. Sister Bedford's daddy and Henry Briscoe, they ran there and picked the car up off of him. He slid out. They said, man, how many lives do you have? Are you a cat? He said, Jesus is my life. We must trust in God. So then after all of that, then cancer took him away. But he said, I'm ready. Are you ready? So Saul, he was angry, and David came and started playing the harp for him. And it soothed his mind, his heart. Don't you know God is a heart fixer and a mind regulator? So then that's why in Psalms 100 he said, make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Yes. Have I got a witness? Amen. So when you come before God, even when you're down and out, when you come before God or go before God, you can tell him, Lord, you know my problems. But he said, tell me about it. Because he said, whatever you need, ask me in my name. I already know. I know your thoughts when they're far off. But tell me about it. Now, I just want to hear it. And then, sometimes you start talking and it's not as bad as you think it is. Why? Because God can move your mind. He can soothe your thoughts. And that's why when he said, make a joyful noise, I thought about that song say, I hear music in the air up above my head. I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. So then you take all of your troubles, all your trials and tribulation, and carry it to God. So David began to play, and it eased the heart of Saul. Saul will have some good moments, like some of us. Saul will have some bad moments, like some of us. Sometimes it seems like we have more bad moments than we do good moments. Why? Because we're drooling in our sorrows. But if we will stop and think, say, I will lift up mine eyes unto the hill from which cometh all of my help comes from the Lord.
Yes, yes.
Which made him, because he made me, he made you. So therefore we must trust God. And through the years we keep toiling, but after a while the gate will swing open. David said in Psalms, weeping may endure for a night, church, but after a while joy is going to. What day is that joy is coming? I don't understand that. What are you talking about, preacher? I'm glad you asked me. It's when you're suffering and your heartaches and pains and agony, medication, and looking over your shoulder saying, who's after me? I have to lock my doors. I have to lock my windows. I have to put a camera around my house. I have to watch my car, set the alarm on. Those are troubles. You're weeping. But then joy is going to come. Jesus said, come on home. If you have lived right, come on home and live with me. There is joy in heaven waiting on us. If our heart is right with God. So Saul here, he had good days and bad days. He let this evil spirit come in on him. And when it came in on him, then he would turn around and the devil use him. David had to turn around and go back and play the harps again. And then the choir sing, I'm so glad trouble don't last always. And there was another song I loved to hear the lady sing. I can't think of her name right now. Say, soon I'll be done with the trouble of this world. So therefore, when you live right and you pray right and you trust God, you'll be done with the trouble of this world. So after a while, David began to grow and grow in the spirit, and he had favor in Saul's eyesight. And when he had favor in Saul's eyesight, then the people began to love David more than they did Saul. Yes. Jealousy had put people in jail. Jealousy had put people in the grave. Jealousy have caused people to hate each other. But when you trust God and believe in God, and that's why God is jealous more than anybody else. He said, thou shalt have no other God before me, because I am a jealous God. Now why he's like that? He's because I gave you my son to die on that cross. And then you're going to worship other gods? No, you're not. Thou shalt have no other God before me. So let's get back to Saul. Saul here, and he fell in love with David. And then the people start praising David more than Saul. After a while, David began to play again. In the next chapter, David began to play again. And when he was playing, Saul got angry, and he took a dagger and threw it at David, and pinned him against the wall through his clothes. David escaped. So that's the way we do. In closing, that's the way we do. God blesses us, we're happy, then he's still there with us, giving us air to breathe, and when we get what we want and what we need, we turn away from God. But I'm going to tell you something, we leave him, but God never leaves us. So he set the mode for Saul, and yet Saul turned his back on him. And in our lives, we have some good wives, some good husbands, some good friends, but yet we looking across the fence. The grass is greener, but will that grass continue to grow? Right now we have a rainy season, But after a while, it's going to stop, and you got a lot of winter grass. It's still growing, but it's going to get too hot. The clover and all this, it's going to die out. Oh, your yard was pretty green. Then when it started dying out, then you start saying, I need some fertilizer to make the grass grow pretty and green. I don't care how much fertilizer you put out. If you don't have the water, it's not going to grow. It's going to die. That's the way it is with us. If you don't have that good religion, you're going to die and go to hell. We have to search our hearts and search our mind and let God take control of our life. Let God have his way. Like I said, have thy way, O Lord, have thine own way. When we learn to believe who God is and know who he is, God will make a way. So don't set up, don't get there and try to set the mold when you know you're doing wrong. You set the mold and set it right for God, and God will lead you. He'll give you joy when you sorrow. He'll give you happiness when you're sad. He'll give you peace when there is hatred around you. Hold on to God. God bless you.